The news spread across the station like fire. By the next morning, everyone had heard. A human had seen a Kelthari without her mask, and he had not turned away. The reactions were mixed. Some species did not care. They had their own problems and their own concerns. But many were fascinated. The Kelthari had been a mystery for thousands of years. Their hidden faces were the subject of rumors and legends. Some said they were monsters. Others said they were so beautiful that lesser species would go mad looking at them. Now the truth was out, and it was neither of these things. They were simply different. Vila stayed in her quarters, while the station repaired itself after the attack. Tejo visited her every day. She no longer wore her mask around him. She said it felt strange now, like wearing clothes that did not fit. He liked seeing her true face. He was learning to read her expressions, the way her 6 eyes moved, the way the lights on her skin changed with her moods. But not everyone was happy. The Kelthari delegation was furious. They sent angry messages demanding that all footage be destroyed, that everyone who had seen the princess be silenced. The other aliens on the station refused. This was too important, they said. This was history. And then Emperor Kale arrived. His ship came through the station's main port like a storm cloud. It was massive, dark, and carried the markings of the royal family. When the Emperor walked onto the station, the air itself seemed to grow heavy. Emperor Kale was tall, even taller than his daughter. His holographic form was that of an older man, dignified and powerful, with silver hair pulled back from his face. His eyes were cold and hard. He demanded to see his daughter immediately. Tejo was waiting outside Vala's quarters when the Emperor arrived with his guards. The guards were large Kelthari warriors, their holographic forms designed to look intimidating. They moved to push Tejo aside, but he did not move. "Who is this?" Emperor Kale asked, his voice like ice. "I am Kang Tejo," Tejo replied calmly. "I am the princess's friend." "Friend?" The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You are the human who saw her true form. You are the one who caused this disgrace." "There was no disgrace. Her mask failed during an emergency. I stayed with her to keep her safe." "You should have closed your eyes. You should have turned away. That is what any civilized being would do." Tejo met the Emperor's gaze without flinching. "I am not ashamed of what I saw, and neither should she be." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment. Then he pushed past and entered his daughter's quarters. The door closed behind him, and Tejo was left outside with the guards. He waited. Inside, he could hear voices. The Emperor was shouting. Vela was crying. Tejo's hands curled into fists, but he forced himself to stay calm. This was not his battle. Not yet. An hour passed. Then 2. Finally, the door opened and Emperor Kale walked out. His face was like stone. "You," he said to Tejo, "come with me. We will speak privately." They walked through the corridors of the station until they reached the observation deck. The Emperor stood before the great window, looking out at the stars. Tejo stood beside him and waited. "My people have worn masks for 8,000 years, the Emperor said finally. His voice was quieter now, almost tired. "When we first met other species, they reacted with fear. They called us monsters. They attacked us. We learned to hide ourselves to survive." Tejo listened without interrupting. Over time, the masks became more than protection. They became our identity. We forgot that there could be any other way. We taught our children to be ashamed of their true forms. We told them that the faces underneath were ugly, wrong, something to hide forever. The Emperor turned to look at Tejo. "And then you came along. A human, from a species we barely considered worth noticing. And you looked at my daughter's true face and called her beautiful." "Because she is," Tejo said simply. "Is she?" Or did you just say what she wanted to hear? Teho shook his head. I said what I believe. I will not pretend to understand all of Kelthari culture. But I know what I saw. I saw a woman who was brave enough to show her true self, even when she was terrified. I saw someone kind and curious and wonderful. The outside is just the outside. It is what is inside that matters. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then Teho heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw G1 approaching with a group of human diplomats. They looked nervous but determined. Your Majesty, G1 said, bowing slightly. I hope we are not interrupting. What is this? The Emperor asked coldly. G1 took a deep breath. We heard that you might take the princess away, that you might punish her for what happened. We wanted to speak with you before you made any decisions. This is a Kelthari matter. It does not concern humans. With respect, Your Majesty, it does. G1 stepped forward. What happened on this station was not a disgrace. It was a breakthrough. For centuries, the galaxy has wondered what the Kelthari really look like. There have been fears and rumors. But now we know the truth. And the truth is, you are just people. Different, yes. But people. Another human diplomat spoke up. She was an older woman with gray hair and a gentle face. My grandmother was born in a time when humans on our own world hated each other for the color of their skin. Can you imagine? We share the same planet, the same species, and we killed each other over something as small as how dark our skin was. It took us centuries to learn how foolish that was. G1 nodded. Humans are not perfect. We have made terrible mistakes. But we have also learned from them. We have learned that judging someone by their appearance is the worst kind of stupidity. We have learned that beauty is not about having the right face or the right body. It is about how you treat others. It is about courage and kindness and love. The Emperor looked at each of the humans in turn. You truly believe this? Teho stepped forward. Your daughter showed me her true self, and I did not run away. I held her hand. I told her she was beautiful, not because I was trying to be polite, but because I saw her. All of her. And I fell in love with all of her. A gasp came from behind them. Everyone turned. Vela was standing in the doorway, her true form visible, her 6 eyes wide with shock. She had heard everything. Teho, she whispered. You love me? He walked toward her, ignoring the Emperor, ignoring the guards, ignoring everyone. He stopped in front of her and took her hands in his. Yes, he said. I love you. Not the mask. Not the princess. You. Just you. The lights on her skin blazed bright, brighter than he had ever seen. She threw her arms around him and held him tight, her tendrils wrapping around his shoulders like a second embrace. Emperor Kale watched his daughter cling to the human. He watched the tears on her face, the joy in her eyes. He had not seen her look like that in years, perhaps ever, and for the first time in 8,000 years, he wondered if his people had made a mistake. 3 days passed after the Emperor's arrival. 3 days of quiet talks behind closed doors. 3 days of waiting. Teho spent most of his time with Vela. They walked through the gardens together, no longer hiding. Other beings on the station stared at them, some with curiosity, some with confusion, a few with disgust. But most, especially the humans, simply smiled and moved on. Vela still found it strange. She had spent her whole life being told that her true form was shameful. Now she walked through crowded corridors without her mask, and the sky did not fall. The galaxy did not end. People just looked at her like she was a person. I do not know how to feel, she admitted to Teho one evening. They sat together in the observation deck, watching a nebula glow in the distance. My whole life was built on the belief that I must hide. Now that I am not hiding, I feel lost. Like I do not know who I am anymore. Tejo put his arm around her. Her tendrils curled around his hand, and the lights on her skin pulsed with a soft, warm glow. Maybe that is okay, he said. Maybe not knowing is the first step to finding out. You get to decide who you are now. Not your traditions. Not your fear. Just you. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Humans are very wise sometimes. Sometimes, he agreed. Other times we are very stupid. It is part of our charm. She laughed. It was a beautiful sound. The next morning, a message came from Emperor Kale. He wished to speak with Tejo privately. The guards came to escort him to the Emperor's ship. Tejo walked through the massive vessel alone. The walls were covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move. Everything was elegant, ancient, and intimidating. Finally, he reached a large chamber where the Emperor waited. But something was different. Emperor Kale was not wearing his mask. He stood in his true form. Tall and alien, his skin dark blue with patterns of silver light. He had 8 eyes instead of Vela's 6, arranged in 2 rows. His tendrils were thicker, more like cables, and they hung still and heavy around his shoulders. He looked powerful and strange and nothing like a human. Sit, the Emperor said, gesturing to a chair. Tejo sat. He tried not to stare, but it was hard. He had only seen Vela without her mask. Seeing the Emperor was different. He understood now why the Kelthari had chosen to hide. This form was truly alien. There was nothing human about it at all. And yet, looking at those 8 eyes, Tejo could see intelligence, wisdom, pain. You are uncomfortable, the Emperor observed. A little, Tejo admitted, but I am getting used to it. Honest. I appreciate that. The Emperor sat across from him. I asked to speak with you because I need to understand something. My daughter loves you. I can see it in the way her lights change when you are near, the way her voice softens. She has never loved anyone like this before. I love her too, Tejo said. So I have heard. But what I do not understand is why. What is it about humans that allows you to look at something so different and feel love instead of fear? Tejo thought carefully before answering. I think it is because we have had to practice. For most of our history, humans fought each other. We divided ourselves by skin color, by nationality, by religion. We created enemies out of people who were almost exactly like us. It was cruel and stupid. The Emperor listened without interrupting. But slowly we learned. We learned that those differences did not matter. We learned that the person next to you is not defined by how they look or where they come from. They are defined by their actions, their kindness, their love. Tejo paused. I think humans are good at accepting the different because we spent so long being terrible at it. We know where that path leads. We do not want to go there again. You believe your entire species thinks this way? No. There are still humans who hate and fear. There always will be. But more and more of us are learning. Every generation is better than the one before. Tejo smiled slightly. Give us a few more centuries. We might even become wise. The Emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your species is young. You have only been among the stars for a short time. And yet, you have already learned what my people forgot over 8,000 years. Maybe because you had too much time, Tejo said. When you live long enough, maybe you start to protect traditions instead of questioning them. Humans die quickly. We do not have time to be stuck. The Emperor considered this. Perhaps that is the gift of a short life. Every moment matters more. There was a long silence. Then the Emperor leaned forward. What do you want? He asked. If I asked you to name one thing, what would it be? Tejo did not hesitate. I want Vela to be happy. That is all. Whatever she wants, Wherever she wants to be, I will support her. If she wants to stay with me, I will spend my life trying to make her smile. If she wants to return to her people, I will let her go. Her happiness matters more than mine." The emperor looked at him with all 8 eyes. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he stood. "Come with me." He led Taeho through the ship to a communication chamber. A large screen dominated one wall, and it was connected to the Galactic Council's network. Representatives from dozens of species were watching, waiting. "Today, I will do something my people have not done in 8,000 years, the Emperor announced. His voice carried through the chamber and across the network to listeners throughout the galaxy. "Today, I will show the Council my true face. Not because I am not afraid. I am. But because I have learned that hiding from fear does not make it go away. It only makes it grow." He pressed a control, and suddenly his image was broadcast to millions. His true form unmasked for all the galaxy to see. "This is what a Kelthari looks like," he said. "We are not beautiful by most standards. We are not human. We are different. And for too long, we have believed that different meant wrong." He paused, and his eyes turned toward Taeho. "But a human taught us something important. He looked at my daughter's true face and did not run. He held her hand and called her beautiful. Not because he was blind to her differences, but because he could see past them. He reminded us that love is stronger than fear. That acceptance is stronger than tradition." The Emperor stood taller. "From this day forward, the Keltari Empire will begin the process of removing our masks. Not all at once. Not everywhere. Change takes time. But we will start with humanity, the species brave enough to look at us without flinching. The species that taught us how to be seen." The screen filled with reactions. Some species cheered. Others were shocked. A few were angry. But the Emperor did not care. He turned to Taeho and extended his hand, human style. "Thank you," he said, "for showing my daughter that she could be loved, and for showing my people that we could be ourselves." Taeho shook his hand. "Thank you for listening." Later that evening, Taeho found Vela in the garden, standing beneath the cherry blossoms. Pink petals drifted down around her, landing on her tendrils, catching in the soft glow of her skin. She turned when she heard him approach. Her 6 eyes shone with tears. "I heard what my father said," she whispered. "He is going to change everything. Because of you." Taeho walked to her and took her hands. "Because of us. Because you were brave enough to show me who you really are." She pulled him close. Her tendrils wrapped around him like a blanket, soft and warm. The lights on her skin pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "I love you," she said. "All of you." He smiled and touched her face, tracing the pattern of her eyes. "I love you too. All of you." Above them, the cherry blossoms fell like pink snow. Below them, the stars glittered in the darkness. And somewhere across the galaxy, other beings were watching, learning, wondering if maybe, just maybe, the universe was a little less lonely than they had thought. A human had loved an alien princess. And in doing so, he had changed everything. This was humanity's gift. Not their weapons, not their ships, not their technology, but their endless, stubborn, beautiful capacity to love. The corridor was dark except for the red emergency lights. Smoke drifted in the air from somewhere far away. And in that dim red glow, Taeho saw her true form for the first time. Vela was nothing like the beautiful, human-like figure she had shown the world. Her skin was not smooth and pale. It was deep blue, almost black, covered in patterns that glowed softly with light from within. The light moved across her body in slow waves, like the ocean at night. Her hair was gone. In its place were dozens of thin tendrils that fell past her shoulders, moving slightly on their own like they were floating in water. but it was her face that was most different. She had 6 eyes instead of 2. They were arranged in an uneven pattern across her face. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. Each eye glowed with a soft violet light. Her nose was flat, almost not there. Her mouth was wider than a human mouth, and when she opened it slightly, he could see rows of small pointed teeth. She pressed herself against the wall, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her whole body was shaking. Those 6 eyes were fixed on him, waiting for the horror, waiting for the disgust. "Do not look at me," she whispered. Her voice was the same. That gentle voice he knew. It seemed wrong coming from this alien face. "Please. I cannot bear it if you look at me with fear." Taeho did not look away. He stood very still, his heart beating hard in his chest. He would not lie to himself. This was shocking. This was beyond anything he had imagined. But as he looked at her, as he watched those glowing eyes fill with tears, he realized something important, Don. This was still Vila, the woman who laughed at his jokes. The woman who loved the cherry blossoms. The woman who spoke of her home with such longing. She was still there, behind those 6 eyes, waiting to be rejected again as she had been rejected all her life. He took a step toward her. "Stay back," she said, her voice breaking. He took another step. "Please, Taeho. I do not want to see your face change. I do not want to see the moment you realize I am a monster." He stopped in front of her. She was trembling so hard that he could hear her tendrils rustling against the wall. Slowly, very slowly, he reached out his hand. Vila froze. In Kelthari culture, touching someone's face was the most intimate gesture possible. It was only done between bonded pairs. It was a promise of acceptance, of love, of forever. Taeho did not know this. He only knew that she was suffering, and he wanted to comfort her. His fingers touched her cheek. Her skin was cool and smooth, and the bioluminescent pattern seemed to pulse brighter where he touched. She made a small sound, something between a gasp and a sob. "You are beautiful," he said softly. She stared at him with all 6 eyes. "You lie. I do not. Look at you. You glow like the stars. These patterns on your skin are like art. And your eyes." He smiled gently. "I can see you better now. I can see all of you." Tears fell from her eyes, not 2 streams but 6, running down her face like rivers of light. "You do not understand. By every standard in the galaxy, I am ugly. I am wrong. That is why we wear masks. For thousands of years, we have hidden ourselves because the other species could not bear to look at us. Then the other species are fools." She shook her head. "You are just being kind. You will change your mind. In time, you will realize Vila." He said her name firmly, and she stopped. "Do you remember what I told you about the cherry blossoms? How they are beautiful because they are different, because they do not last forever." She nodded slowly. "Humans do not all agree on what is beautiful. We never have. On our world, we have spent thousands of years fighting over differences that seem silly now. Skin color, eye shape, the way we speak. We hurt each other over these things. We killed each other." His voice grew heavy. "It is the great shame of our history." Vale listened, her eyes watching him. "But we learned. Slowly, painfully, we learned that different does not mean wrong. That strange does not mean ugly. That someone who looks nothing like you can still be precious." He took her hand in his. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, with an extra joint, but they wrapped around his perfectly. "I fell in love with your laugh. I fell in love with your curiosity. I fell in love with the way you look at the stars like they are old friends. That is who you are. This face, this body, this is just the outside. And honestly, the outside is pretty amazing too." She stared at him for a long time. The lights on her skin were pulsing faster now, glowing brighter. How? She whispered. How can you accept this so easily? Tejo thought about her question. Because I am human, he said finally. And humans are very, very good at falling in love with things that are different. A sound came from down the corridor. Footsteps. Voices. The emergency teams were moving through the station. Checking each section. Viola pulled back, trying to hide. I cannot let them see me. If others see my true form, then let them see, Tejo said. She looked at him in horror. No, the shame. My family. My people. What shame? You are a princess. You are beautiful. Let them see what the Kelthari really look like. Let them see you. Before she could argue, the emergency team rounded the corner. There were humans and aliens together, a mixed group carrying lights and medical equipment. They stopped when they saw Tejo and Vila. One of the aliens, a tall creature with gray skin and large black eyes, stepped back in shock. A Kelthari, he gasped. An unmasked Kelthari. The others stared, some in confusion, some in surprise. One of the humans, a young woman, tilted her head. Is she okay? The human woman asked. She looked scared. Tejo stepped forward, keeping himself between Vela and the group. She is fine. Her holographic projector was damaged in the attack. She needs help. The gray alien was still staring. In 300 years, I have never seen a Kelthari without their mask. This is unprecedented. So what? Tejo said. His voice was calm but firm. She is still a person. She is still the same princess who has been negotiating peace with you for weeks. The only thing that has changed is what she looks like. Is that a problem for you? The gray alien opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. The young human woman pushed past the others and walked up to Viola. She looked at her for a moment, taking in the 6 eyes, the glowing skin, the floating tendrils. Then she smiled. Cool, she said simply. You glow. That is really cool. Vila blinked all 6 of her eyes in surprise. You are not afraid? Why would I be afraid? You look like something from a dream. Can you control the lights? Can you make them different colors? For a moment, Vela was too shocked to speak. Then, slowly, the lights on her skin shifted from blue to purple to soft pink. The human woman laughed with delight. Amazing. You have to teach me how that works. Tejo watched this happen, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. This was humanity. This was what they were capable of. Not just war and conquest, but wonder, curiosity, the simple joy of discovering something new and different. He looked at Vela and saw something he had never seen before in her eyes. Hope. Viola stopped coming to the garden. Tejo waited for her beneath the cherry blossom tree, but she did not appear. The next day, the same. And the day after that. When he saw her in meetings, she would not meet his eyes. Her voice was cold again, formal, like a stranger. He did not understand what had happened. She's playing games with you, G1 said. They sat together in the dining hall, and G1 was eating his breakfast with loud bites. I warned you. These aliens, they do not think like us. Whatever you thought you had with her, it was not real. Tejo pushed his food around his plate. Something is wrong. I can feel it. Maybe she got bored. Maybe her people told her to stay away from you. Does it matter? She is a princess from an empire that thinks we are insects. You should forget about her. But Tejo could not forget. He kept seeing her face, the way she had looked at him in those quiet moments. The small laughs, the soft words. That was not fake. He was sure of it. 3 more days passed. Vela avoided him completely. She took different routes through the station. She sent servants to speak for her in meetings. It was like she had built a wall around herself, and Teho could not find a way through. He was not the only one who noticed the change. Yun. Hana was a xenobiologist on the station. She studied alien life forms and their cultures. She was a small woman with short hair and glasses that always seemed to be falling down her nose. She found Teho sitting alone in the observation deck one evening, staring at the stars. "You look terrible," she said, sitting down beside him. "Thank you for that," Teho replied without smiling. Hana watched him for a moment. "This is about the Kelthari princess, is it not?" He did not answer, but his silence was enough. Hana pushed her glasses up and leaned back in her chair. "I have been studying the Kelthari for years. They are fascinating. Ancient culture, very proud, very private. They keep many secrets." "What kind of secrets?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke carefully. "Have you ever wondered why the Kelthari always look so perfect? So beautiful by human standards?" Teho frowned. "I thought that was just how they are. No species looks that convenient for human eyes. Think about it. The galaxy has thousands of intelligent races. Most of them look nothing like us. But the Kelthari? They could walk through any city on Earth and people would just think they were beautiful humans with strange hair." Teho turned to look at her. "What are you saying?" Hana met his eyes. "I am saying that maybe the face you see is not their real face." The words hit him like cold water. He thought about Vila, about her perfect features, about the way light sometimes seemed to shimmer around her edges, almost like a hologram. He had noticed it before, but had never thought much about it. "They wear masks?" he asked. "Holographic projections. Very advanced technology. The Kelthari developed them thousands of years ago. Their true form is different. The galaxy is full of species with different ideas of beauty. What the Kelthari really look like is considered unpleasant by most standards. So they hide." Teho was silent for a long time. Then he stood up. "Where is she?" "Teho, wait. This is not something they talk about. If you confront her, it can make things worse." But he was already walking away. He did not find Vela. Instead, she found him. He was in the garden again, standing beneath the cherry blossoms, when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw her there. She looked tired. There were shadows under her violet eyes. "You have been avoiding me," Teho said. "Yes," Vela replied. She did not try to lie. "Why?" She looked away. "Because it is better this way. For both of us. Better? We were happy. At least, I thought we were. You do not understand." Her voice shook slightly. "There are things about me that you do not know. Things that would change everything." Teho took a step toward her. "Then tell me. Help me understand. I cannot, or will not." Vela closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. "Please, Teho. Just let me go. Remember me as I am now. That is all I ask." He wanted to argue, wanted to push, but the pain in her eyes stopped him. Whatever she was hiding, it was destroying her. "I do not care what you are hiding," he said softly. "Whatever it is, it does not change how I feel." Vela shook her head. "You say that now, but you have not seen. You do not know. Then show me." She stepped back like he had struck her. "No, never. I would rather you hate me for leaving than hate me for what I really am." Before he could respond, alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across the station. A voice boomed through the speakers, announcing an emergency. An attack. A rogue faction had breached the outer sections. People began to run. Security teams rushed past them. Vela looked toward the door, fear in her eyes. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Teho said. He grabbed her hand and pulled her into the corridor. The station shook. Somewhere in the distance, there was an explosion. Lights flickered. Emergency doors began to close, sealing off sections. Tejo and Vela ran through the chaos. They passed screaming people, rushing guards, smoke and sparks. Another explosion rocked the floor, and Vela stumbled. Tejo caught her and held her close. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "I am fine." "Keep moving." They made it to a quiet corridor in a section that had been sealed off from the main attack. For a moment, they were safe. Tejo checked his communication device, but it was dead. The attack must have damaged the systems. "We need to wait here," he said. "Help will come." Vela nodded, but she was not looking at him. She was looking at her hands. They were flickering. Small waves of light passed over her skin like water. "No," she whispered. No, Vela. What is wrong?" She backed away from him, pressing herself against the wall. The flickering was getting worse. Her whole body seemed to shimmer. "The explosion," she said, her voice filled with panic. "It must have damaged my projector. The mask is failing." Tejo stepped toward her. "It is okay. Whatever happens, it is okay. Stay back." She screamed. "Do not look at me. Please, Tejo. Turn around. Close your eyes. I am begging you." Tears streamed down her face. The hologram flickered violently. Parts of her began to change. The silver hair dissolved into something else. Her skin shifted color. "Please," she begged. "Remember me as I was. Not as this. Not as the monster I really am." Tejo stood still. He watched her fall apart, watched her mask fail piece by piece. And he did not move. He did not turn away. "I am not leaving," he said quietly. "And you are not a monster." The hologram gave one final flicker. And then it died completely. And for the first time in her life, Vela stood before someone with no mask at all. The space station Unity Arc floated in the darkness between stars like a city made of light. It was the largest structure humanity had ever built, and now it served as a meeting place for dozens of alien species. Humans had only recently earned their place here. Just 5 years ago, they had fought against the Radic Horde and won. The galaxy had watched in surprise as these young beings from a small blue planet pushed back an enemy that had conquered worlds for thousands of years. Kang, Tejo stood near the observation window, watching ships come and go. He was 29 years old, tall with kind eyes and a calm face. He wore the gray uniform of a human diplomat, simple but neat. Today was an important day. The Kelthari Empire was sending a representative for peace talks, and Tejo had been chosen to be their guide during the negotiations. His friend Park G1 walked up beside him. G1 was shorter, with sharp eyes that always seemed to be judging something. He crossed his arms and looked out the window. "You ready for this?" G1 asked. "I think so," Tejo replied. "The Kelthari are not easy. They think they are better than everyone else. They have been traveling between stars for 10,000 years. To them, we are just children playing with fire." Tejo smiled slightly. "Then I will be a very polite child." Ji-won shook his head, but said nothing more. The Kelthari ship arrived an hour later. It was beautiful in a way human ships were not. It looked like it was grown rather than built, with curves and lines that seemed almost alive. When the doors opened, a small group of aliens walked out. They were tall and elegant, wearing robes of silver and blue. Their skin was smooth, their features perfect, almost too perfect. And then she stepped forward. Princess Vela was unlike anyone Tejo had ever seen. She had flowing silver hair that seemed to glow softly in the light. Her eyes were a deep violet color, large and expressive. Her face was beautiful in a way that made his heart beat faster. She moved with grace, every step careful and measured. Tejo stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Welcome to Unity Arc, Princess Vela. I am Kang Taeho. I will be your guide during your stay here." Vila looked at him with those violet eyes. Her expression was cold, distant. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was soft but carried no warmth. "I trust the arrangements are acceptable. We have prepared the finest quarters for you and your people," Taeho said. "If there is anything you need, please let me know." She nodded once and walked past him without another word. Ji-won appeared at Taeho's side. "I told you." Cold as ice. Taeho watched her go. There was something in her eyes, just for a moment, that he could not understand. It looked almost like fear. The first week was difficult. Vela spoke only when necessary. She sat through meetings with a face that showed nothing. The other diplomats found her impossible to read. But Taeho noticed small things. He noticed how she would sometimes pause near the windows and look at the stars with a strange sadness. He noticed how she never ate in public, always taking her meals alone in her quarters. One evening, Taeho found her in the biodome garden. This was a large area in the center of the station, filled with plants and trees from Earth. Real sunlight came through special panels in the ceiling. It was the closest thing to being on a planet. Vela stood beneath a cherry blossom tree, looking up at the pink flowers. Taeho approached slowly. "These are called cherry blossoms," he said gently. "On Earth, they bloom in spring. People gather to watch them because they are so beautiful. But they only last a few weeks." Vela did not look at him. That seemed sad. To be beautiful for such a short time. Some humans think the short time is what makes them special. They remind us that beautiful things do not last forever. So we should enjoy them while we can. For the first time, Vela turned to look at him. There was something different in her eyes now. Curiosity, perhaps. "Your people have strange thoughts," she said. Taeho smiled. "We have many strange thoughts. Would you like to hear more?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, very slowly, she nodded. From that day, things began to change. Taeho made it his mission to show Vela the best of humanity. He took her to the station's music hall, where human musicians played songs from different cultures. He showed her paintings in the art gallery, explaining the stories behind each one. He brought her food from Earth, simple things like bread and fruit and chocolate. At first, Vela remained formal. But slowly, piece by piece, her walls began to fall. She laughed for the first time when Taeho accidentally spilled tea on his uniform during a formal dinner. It was a small laugh, quickly hidden behind her hand, but Taeho saw it. He smiled at her, not embarrassed at all. "You should laugh more," he told her. "It suits you." Vela looked away, but he could see a slight color in her cheeks. The weeks passed. The peace negotiations moved forward, but Taeho cared less about politics and more about his time with Vela. They walked together through the gardens. They talked about their homes, their dreams, their fears. Vela told him about the Kelthari homeworld, a place of endless oceans and floating cities. Taeho told her about Earth, about mountains and forests, and the sound of rain. Other aliens on the station began to notice. They whispered in corridors. A Kelthari princess spending time with a human? It was unheard of. The Kelthari were proud and ancient. They did not mix with lesser species. Some found it amusing. Others found it insulting. Vela heard the whispers. She pretended not to care, but Taeho could see the tension in her shoulders. "Does it bother you?" he asked one evening. "What they say about us?" Vela was quiet for a moment. "Does it bother you?" Taeho shook his head. "No, I do not care what anyone thinks. I only care that you are happy." She looked at him with those violet eyes, and something shifted in her expression. Something soft, something vulnerable. "You are different," she whispered. "Different from what I expected humans to be." "What did you expect?" "I was told you were violent, dangerous. that you fought your way to the stars with blood and fire. Taeho nodded slowly. We have done terrible things. That is true. None of these true. But we have also done beautiful things. We are capable of both. Perhaps that is what makes us human. Vila turned away, looking at the stars through the window. Her hands trembled slightly. She had a secret. A terrible secret that she had carried since childhood. And every moment she spent with Taeho, every laugh they shared, every gentle word he spoke, made that secret heavier. Because the woman he saw was not real Dot, she was wearing a mask. And somewhere deep in her heart, in a place she had tried so hard to lock away, Princess Vila realized she was falling in love with him. A human. A man who had never seen her true face. The thought terrified her more than anything in the galaxy.